So I've been talking about code efficiency with the idea that a problem will present itself in an existing code, an existing application. Maybe you've gotten complaints from users. Maybe you have metrics that you're not meeting. Maybe it's just you looking at your own application, but somebody is concerned that the application or part of it is too slow, or it doesn't start quickly enough, or that it's not responsive enough, or it takes up too much CPU or too much memory. But what about brand new code? What if I'm writing a new application, new code, new classes, new methods, and I want to write my latest code as efficiently as possible? Well, there are certainly general habits we can get into when writing code that will affect efficiency. Making sure to choose the right data types and data structures, asking certain questions about our loops and collections, being careful with string operations and file input-output, and I'll cover many of these during the course. But when writing new code, rule number 1 still applies. First, do nothing. As far as efficiency is concerned, don't worry about it. Don't do anything special. Now, okay, this is not me telling you to write sloppy code. Quite the opposite. What I'm saying is that when you are writing new code, when you are in the situation of looking at the blank page and the blinking cursor, your focus should be on making this code clear, accurate, precise, readable, understandable, modular. Working on that will never be a waste of your time. What I didn't say was focus on making it fast, because the code you're about to write is probably fast enough. And working on speed when you don't know there's a speed issue, most of the time, not just a complete waste of time, but worse than that. See, the phrase we use for this idea, toiling away on the efficiency or speed of code when you don't know there's any issue with the efficiency or speed of that code, that is premature optimization, and this is something we don't want to do. I will quote the computer scientist and author Donald Knuth. "Premature optimization is the root of all evil in programming." Okay, quite dramatic quote there, but why? Well, there are a few reasons, but here's a couple. First, and just simply, our time as developers has value. So a developer spends several days obsessing about perfecting the code behind a button click, and they manage to successfully cut the time that code takes in half. Well, if that means it goes from taking 0.002 of a second to 0.001 of a second, but the user is going to take at least 20 times that to even just press and release that button, it simply doesn't matter. It was a waste of time. And there are many optimizations like that that have no impact on the experience of the user, and importantly, no possible impact on the objective tasks that could be accomplished. The developer fixed an imaginary problem. They totally wasted their time, and that was time that wasn't spent somewhere else, fixing a real problem, or adding a new feature, or even just refactoring the code. But, Simon, you may ask, what's the harm? What's the harm in always focusing on performance first as we're writing new code? I mean, sure, there might be places it doesn't have a practical impact, but it doesn't hurt anything. Well, it often does. And this is the main issue with premature optimization. Because focusing on pure performance, and by definition, that means that when given the choice, you are valuing performance above clarity. Well, that's often going to require technically more complex processing, more complex algorithms. You are introducing new code that is not needed. You've increased the complexity of your program, so you now have readability and maintenance issues. And with more code, and particularly more complex code, simply put, is always the potential for more bugs. So, what's the answer? Well, when writing new code, begin by valuing the simplicity and clarity of that code as your primary focus, and just assuming that, on average, it will be fast enough. And yes, we remain absolutely open to the idea that we may need to revisit some of our code, but we want to prove there's an issue before we fix it. Optimization is great. Efficiency is great, but it's premature optimization. Optimization for the sake of it. Optimization that is objectively unnecessary is something we should strive to avoid at all costs. So, with that said, if we now assume that in our development a problem has presented itself, there is some kind of efficiency issue we need to evaluate and hopefully improve, and we're deciding to not just do nothing but to do something about it, what do we do next?